It's late Thursday, early Friday. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving you a look at those current temperatures across the region. You see a lot of 60s here on the board, some 50s though as well. But we're in a pattern right now where we're a little bit above average, but it's not too bad. I mean, at least we're not down with the tropic being a threat right now. We may have to watch something later on into toward November as we get maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks out, give or take. But right now we're not in a situation where it's any type of imminent threat, even if that were to develop, which is really on the edge of the meteorology right now. I know I'll kind of dive into it a little bit later on. Maybe something actually watching, just over a week, in terms of if there were to be like a Kona concern or something like that. But right now, nothing to be concerned about. That's great news here in that regard. I know looking at some of these readings and then comparing them with my thermometer here east of Stark, sitting at 59 degrees here at this hour. So I know it's a pattern where we do have that fog potential as we're looking here towards some of our communities. So just be aware of that. Not really seeing too much of that here on our map right now, but I'll kind of get into those fog safety tips here more in just a few minutes. But I mean, we're just kind of, so any of these readings, I'll go ahead and I'll go further out. You can see Pensacola area, not too dissimilar, if anything, a little bit warmer out there. But I mean, we're seeing those readings, as we kind of look at things. We see 63 toward Gainesville, 61 toward Lake City, kind of giving you guys an idea of what's going on here tonight as we're looking at things in toward the Weather Center, as you kind of just get an idea here of what is happening. So again, just trying to inform you about all of that. Let me go ahead and show you something that is a little bit more ominous, not for the U.S. here, though. I know, first off, you just see there's a boundary here where we have a situation where we do have, I know, some cool air trying to come on in, but I mean, it's not going to make it toward us. But you see, in terms of that big contrast, but you see some 30s there, toward areas there, and parts of South Dakota and even in toward Nebraska here right now. So that's something to kind of keep our eyes on as we're tracking things. I know, let's get out of the Pacific. We were tracking, I know our system likes to call it a Cat 5. It's been kind of wavering between that, but there is a hurricane called Christy out there in the Pacific. And let's switch some of our satellites around here. As we're looking at things, you can kind of see it's pretty organized, but earlier on even more organization as we were looking at things here in that regard. I know you see Hawaii in the south right now. We're not too concerned about them, but we'll keep our eyes on it. This was something where we had the energy in the Atlantic there with Nadine, and then got on in the Pacific and became Hurricane Christy. But that is not a concern there. Let's go ahead and just review here, though, what we've been dealing with as we're looking at things. I know these last two hurricanes that have hit the state of Florida is so tragic, so devastating, catastrophic. I mean, all those different words. I mean, up to North Carolina, too, with Helene. You see here, Cat 4, that was Helene. Cat 3, that was Milton. But the wind only tells part of this story. Of course, the flooding with Helene was just horrific, but the storm surge with both was significant. Of course, Helene toward our area was just, horrific. In toward areas with Milton, with this latest, round of that, it was still very serious. Down toward areas closer toward, west central southwest Florida, south of Tampa, though, because that wind direction, that factor there. But you see our next name in the Atlantic would be Patty. Then after that, Raphael, Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and William. And then as we go ahead and kind of look at things like climatology, looking here at this Atlantic hurricane season, I know as we get into November, the chances of storms out in the tropics, so that chance really drops on off, which is what we want to see, obviously. But it doesn't mean that something couldn't happen. We'll be watching this. I'll be watching everything here for you as we look ahead. But of course, we're always watching things for our 62 counties here across our region. I'm in Bradford County, but we're always on for any tornado warning storm within the 62 counties. And we've been doing that for 5 years here now. Next 7 days, the rainfall shouldn't be too much here locally toward that first coast, southeast Georgia. You see some area, the quarter inch there on average, but not too big of a deal. There's even less as we get further away, though, from that Atlantic influence there per se. You see Tallahassee, Albany, we're not expecting too much, so that's good for things, like high school football and the like. I know FSU is going down to Miami. It'll be very tough against, a highly ranked Miami team. And Florida State with only one win out of 7 this year in football, alma mater. Just hadn't been there a year and on that football field. But it's going to be, something where rain shouldn't be a factor down there Saturday night as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. I know you can go to Colorado.com/radar for an interactive look at things, but as I alluded to that fog threat, make sure you're slowing down on that Friday morning and giving yourself extra time. And this could even last further on because of the pattern we're in. But, looking ahead Friday morning, just slow down and give yourself extra time to reach your destination. I know you're in a situation here where you just want to kind of make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible to other vehicles by using your low beam headlights and leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. So these are very, very important things to keep in mind here, folks. You just got to be extra, extra careful in these type of situations here as we're looking at things. And then as we kind of go ahead and see, something a little bit of a, lighter topic though, and that's college football. I know for FSU it's not a lighter topic, but maybe, in some ways, or as light of a topic as you'd want it to be. But as we look here, you see, this is what I would predict as the current playoff if I was on the committee. Of course, last year FSU 13-0, perfect season. Many wins by large margins against Troy high caliber teams, and they were left out. It was a 4-team picture then, though. Now 12-team picture, and the top 5 teams from conferences automatically get in. The top 4 get the top 4 seeds in the buys. That's why you might be confused seeing like Clemson, BYU up there, and then Boise State there. There would be grouped with the 5th best camp of the group with the other teams, and then they would rank out last, but they would get the last spot in the situation. I know some things that stand out here. Clemson, I have them they're just a better team, I think, right now than Miami and Pitt for that matter. That's why I have them where they're at. BYU, I'm predicting them to be the Big 12 champion right now, and all these conferences last couple of years drifting around, kind of interesting. I mean, Oregon, Big 10 champ there, projects them, but you see Penn State, Ohio State, I have them in. I mean, I have Indiana in as well. That's 4 teams in the Big 10. Only 2 from the SEC. The SEC just, this year, they just haven't been able to get the job done really. A lot of games, Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they lost to Georgia State. It's not like Vanderbilt should be ranked number 25 like they are. I mean, they lost to Georgia State. Like, really, if an ACC team lost to Georgia State, you really think they're going to rank them in the top 25? I mean, yeah. But anyway, as we're looking at things, Alabama, you see they're not even up here. They're not even in consideration right now. They've lost 2 games in Tennessee. I mean, they struggle with Florida. They lost in overtime, they won in overtime against them. Florida might be a little bit better than we thought. They played good against Kentucky, but, just not great for the SEC this year. OSU, if it wasn't for that loss to USC, they've looked okay, but they struggled with Ole Miss, who's supposed to be pretty good, but they've already lost a couple games. So, SEC, I have Texas in there right now. They were number 1, and I think they're still pretty decent in Georgia. They've been up there, obviously. They're a really good team. And they did lose to Alabama, but Alabama's already lost to Vanderbilt. They've already lost their, a second game as well in there. That just kind of tells a story about Alabama this year. They almost lost to South Carolina. That game, it could have went either way. They've really struggled, of course. Alabama's lost to Tennessee, has Tennessee in consideration right now. And our polls have them way higher. But, Notre Dame, I wanted to put them in there right now. That lost to Illinois that's come up a little bit too, too big here. But it's a situation where, they can work their way pretty easily here. They have a tough game against Navy. Navy and Army both undefeated so far this year for the first time this far into the season since 1945. So, kind of interesting there. But as you see here, SMU, They beat FSU handily. They could be playing, in a big showdown, based on what it's looking like right now against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had them a little lower accent here earlier on, but they had an impressive win against Syracuse. So I had them bumped ahead of Miami. Indiana, I mean, what a job there by Kurt Cignetti's squad, the head coach there for that team so far this year. Iowa State, Matt Campbell, he had Brock Purdy. Now he has another quarterback there, Rocco Beck. So, there's some really impressive play there as we're looking at things. I mean, Miami, if they weren't undefeated, they wouldn't even be close because they really should have lost some games. But you got to, as we saw last year, it's a big deal. Everybody, we're always thinking that you got to value that zero in the loss column, and with this big of a playoff, you got to put a team like that in. I suspect they probably lose a conference title game later down the line, but their schedule is really, really weak. I mean, FSU is just not good this year, sadly. My Seminoles, they're one of the worst teams in the Power Four. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But, they were the best team maybe, and, definitely in the ACC, if not even the country last year, and not, invited to the playoff. But by now, they're not very good. They're trying hard, the guys out there, but it's just not resulting in wins. But as we go ahead and look here, the planning forecast now, as we turn it back more into that weather focus, you can see a 5% chance of rain there on that Friday. As we're looking at things, 5% chance of rain on that Saturday, Sunday as well. So that's looking good if you're trying to enjoy those weekend plans. 86, 86, 86 there. So above average for sure as we're looking at things here across the region. You see there 58 degrees for that morning low on that Friday, 59 on that Saturday and Sunday. So, that's pretty nice, really. Depending on where you're at, if you're near the coast, East Coast, you're going to be warmer. We have that fog potential in some of our communities, so be extra careful. And then as you look toward that Monday there, 61 degrees for that Monday morning, 62 as we look toward that Tuesday morning. The rain chance goes up a little around Tuesday, Wednesday. I know, unless we need to come back on sooner, we'll be back with another update late Tuesday here from the Weather Center. But as we're looking at things here right now, it's looking pretty calm. Of course, things can change rapidly. I've seen that before, the tropics and the like, but you can kind of see here as we look at things here in the Weather Center. I mean, it's kind of looking there. I see that 10% chance of rain on Halloween. 82 for the high, 62 for the low. As you're kind of getting an idea on that, as we give you that look at things, and then as I go ahead and see you now, the 8 through 14 day picture. This is something I haven't really ever done, and something I'm not going to do too much, but we have, of course, there's early voting. Check your local county information here in R62, but we have the election day coming up there as we get into early November. Just look here from November 1st through, that Thursday as we get there in a little bit further to November. We're talking about a situation here where it all depends on the tropics, really. But, kind of broad breasted right now, looking like a little above average. So, with not too much rain unless there's a threat from the tropics. But, we could have a frontal boundary later on if that were to occur. And one of these days, if it's not a tropics threat, that raises a chance in a period of frontal boundary could. And I kind of have an idea of that frontal boundary here as you guys kind of look at things here. I mean, you see, as we're looking there toward that Thursday, a little bit cooler out there as we're tracking things. So, that's kind of the storyline there right now here in the Weather Center. I know, we're looking at things. We're tracking things here. I mean, just hoping the weather stays good around election time. You just never know. But right now it's looking pretty good here. There's early voting as well, so make sure you check into those local details regarding that. So again, just kind of trying to give you an idea of things. I know these averages here are for day 8 per se. Since the other averages, they're day 1. If you guys were wondering how to get those Jacksonville and Tallahassee numbers, so 58 average low for that Friday, November 1st, Jacksonville, and the 54 Tallahassee, the average, and then you see 75 and 77 there as we're looking at things. So again, that's kind of telling that storyline there, and giving you guys a look here at what goes on in that regard. Again, I don't normally do a forecast this far out, but we are watching the tropics. Not too concerned if something were to develop, maybe South Florida, have a little bit better chance of getting it, but it could be, further off toward the Bahamas, or it might not happen, or, could have a powerful hurricane toward Cuba, Yucatan Peninsula, and or the Bahamas. You never know. So, we'll be watching, we'll be tracking here, but not turning the logo red. I know we kind of have that logo we use here around Veterans Day and Memorial Day if we can, and we're using that as we're getting closer toward election day now. And hopefully we don't have to turn it red for the alert mode for the severe weather potential. But we'll continue to monitor things here in toward the weather center. So again, severe weather potential, and mainly when I say that, in this case, it would probably be the tropics. I don't think we'd have like a squall line or anything coming through here in that timeline, not unless the models really drastically changed, because they were putting pretty low chances as we got there, even with that cool down. But things can change. We're kind of really on the edge of the meteorology. So, and this is that threat of thunderstorm action on that Friday in that light green area. Not an official severe risk. You could get a warning, not out of the question. But as we're looking up, you see around Joplin, areas in northeast Oklahoma. I mean, you kind of get the idea where this line goes. You see Columbia, Missouri, and Quincy, Illinois, and seeing some thunderstorms on the map, getting closer to that more fall-like pattern here. We did have warnings earlier on. I mean, you see the word Chicago, none right now, but 4 hours ago was a much different story with several severe thunderstorm warnings up there, and a couple around Davenport, Iowa, give or take as well. So that pattern changing, making it harder for the tropics to impact the continental U.S. But we'll continue to watch things. It's all about protecting you and your family, your friends. I said just informing you, your friends, and your family here. And as we're looking at things, as we're tracking here, just if there's any questions or comments, don't see anything. But again, I mean, just trying to give you the latest. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those impacted by the 2 hurricanes, and it is absolutely catastrophic. In some instances, other folks did get lucky, but when you think about folks in Western North Carolina, just what happened up there, all that horrific flooding. As we were looking into where those communities, those mountain communities. I mean, of course, Asheville there, that area being impacted just so severely. Of course, our area. I mean, think of those folks there at, Keaton Beach, buildings just completely wiped away, by that storm surge in Helene. We had all that wind damage there, and we're like Valdosta. We had a situation there, with Milton. So many folks lost power across the state. There's a lot of flooding, especially for the south of our area. A little bit, of concern. Of course, we had in Flagler and Putnam, toward Marion, that area there per se. Of course, Volusia got it even a little worse, I would say, though. And then they had a storm surge there. They had all that wind around Sarasota, storm surge in that area. Some areas were devastated down there as well. Maybe not getting quite as high the storm surge values, but yeah, just terrible situation. Hurricane season, we'll never forget. You add Debbie into the equation as well, and we can't let our guard down. The chances of storms are lower, but they're not zero here. We'll all continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. It's all about keeping you guys informed, but I think that'll be about it for tonight. Let me go ahead and just kind of remind you guys of all the different platforms we're on. Of course, you kind of have that list there. Facebook, Casey Cloud Reacts, Cloud Weather. Twitter/X at Cloud Casey, YouTube at Cloud Weather, Twitch Cloud Weather, and cloudweather.com, and you have all the different links available on there, to those sources. So something to kind of keep in mind. I know looking at my thermometer again right now, we're at about 59 degrees. We did get down to 58 a moment ago as we were looking at things outside, all about that local variability here as we kind of track things. The wind not blowing. I know time change coming up next weekend. Right now, that sunrise at 7:37 a.m. That sunset at 6:47 p.m. But that's going to change. We're going to have that hour where you have hour more of give or take, because days are getting shorter, but hour more of daylight in the morning and an hour less in the evening. So a little over a week of that left, and then you want to change those batteries. As you get toward that point, or you can do it now too, and then when you get about 6 months, but change those batteries and those smoke alarms. I know. I had one beeping here on that Thursday. And then, I still want to change those batteries here in those weather radios as well. That's about a, good point to do it here as we're looking at all of that. So that's going to do it for now. Have a great night. Have a great weekend out there. Go Noles. I mean, 1-6 here. Probably going to be 1-7, but, you never know what could happen. Brock Glenn, Luke Kromenhoek there, the quarterbacks in play, they might give us a chance, my Seminoles. We're gonna try. Miami, they are a team that struggle with teams. They see blow out and they're not winning by much, so it's gonna be tough to Miami. It's just been a season, of course, lose, you know, any chance of winning record out the window. It means you'd have to beat, Notre Dame there on the road later on. Uh, it's just probably not going to happen. Maybe you can get a win in there. Right now, looking like a decent chance at FSU. It's going to finish 2-10 or 3-9 this year. That's assuming a win against Charleston Southern, and then hoping for a win against North Carolina, which is a pretty evenly matched type of team. There, they might be a little bit better than FSU, but not sure if they're that much better. But of course, Florida's off this week. They're getting ready for that game against Georgia next week. Jacksonville, they're playing Green Bay on Sunday. Well, this will be pretty good for that. I know having, that current threat breeze around as we look ahead here at points. So be careful, aware of that. And then, we're just kind of looking at Bradford. They're going to be playing Santa Fe there in high school football. Well, this will be pretty good for that as well. So, that's better news than what we've been talking about. You do have that fog potential at points, around, maybe not necessarily during the games, but that's something to watch for if you're traveling there, maybe late at night, depending on where you're at. So keep that in mind. But, otherwise, have a great night. Enjoy things the best you can. And we'll be back here next week with more weather information as we continue to watch things here in the Weather Center.